Hola,
Hi,
how are you, Marilyn?
I'm good. How about you?
I'm great. How's school going?
That's it's really hard, but it's okay.
Is it?
Yeah,
What
yeah.
uh what's what's the hardest?
Oh, probably AP World. Yeah. Me and history don't kind of get along.
Oh, well, it's about a bunch of dead people, isn't it? It's
Yeah, it is.
that kind of like that's what STEM people think. It's just about a bunch of dead people.
Exactly.
Funny. You'll do fine.
Thank you so much.
Welcome back, everybody. We'll be bringing a few peeps in here. I expect to have a lighter than normal attendance tonight. Few people have told me they would not be attending. So this is being recorded. I always have to take off the front part where my husband asks me what I want to eat or whatever. I always forget it's recording. And then it's like, yeah, we don't want that. How are you, Mary?
I'm good, thank you. How are you?
Good.
Beautiful day in Tahoe today.
Yes, good.
Yeah.
Is it hot? Is it getting hot again there? Like heating up or is it?
Um, it's in the 70s and that's going to drop 15 degrees in first of next week.
Oh, okay.
So, time of year changing.
Yeah. Yeah. I'm gonna turn the live transcript on.
Are you getting rain, Mary?
No,
Am I?
you're,
Oh, the
you're
other Mary M.
No, Mary Isaac. We just started getting rain.
Did you? I'm looking, it's cloudy and I was just looking out the window and it was rosy. So
And an emergency thing for Julian and
flash
the
flood?
whole area for heavy winds and heavy rain.
Huh. I'm not getting any sense of heavy winds out here up in the foothills. So
I got nothing out here in Rancho San Diego. But boy, I want rain.
In La Mesa, it's sprinkling now. Yep.
It's on the way.
Hmm.
Mary, I missed you on Monday night.
Where was I?
We didn't have a meeting. We had meetings every Monday night.
Oh, I actually, what did I do Monday night? Didn't I? I had a meeting with somebody Monday night. I don't know who I had a meeting with. Somebody. They all blur together, one into the other. I am going to get started here, and this is being recorded. There's also transcripts available. And I have not been doing transcripts for the last couple, and I realized that when I looked at what got saved. Just so everybody knows, here we have one of the Marilyn is one of our camp's alumna who is joining us to hear what it's all about in the Tech Trek annual meeting. She's going to be helping us out, and Esme's coming too. She's going to be helping us out. These two young ladies are going to be helping us out with some of the Tech Trek alumni community that we're working on as we move into 2024. So that's Marilyn and Esme Grenstam. Marilyn is from La Mesa, El Cajon area, and Esme, you're from, wait, OML. Arinda Moraga Lafayette? No, San Mateo.
Yeah.
And attended Stanford. So we have a little bit of a different perspective. And so be nice. Everybody be nice. I know you are, but be especially nice. And people had told me they might not be participating tonight. As I mentioned, this is being recorded. There's also transcripts that would be available. Mary, do you know if Roseanne and Valerie were going to join? They didn't
I
say.
don't know if they were. No, they didn't say.
Okay. Okay. So, we'll catch up on how that all went. So let's get started. What I'm going to do is stick in the chat the link to the PDF so that if you choose to, you may follow along or share it or whatever. Let me grab that. I don't feel bad. I went to a meeting before this. It was, and it was actually a friend of mine who was running the meeting, and it either was so long since she had run a meeting or something that I felt bad for her because it was so delayed because of tech issues. And it was like, oh, I don't feel too bad now when we have tech issues. Okay, let me share my screen. I'm looking at what I have open just in case. So what I found was I was doing all these videos, right? And as I'm doing the videos, all of a sudden one of them got kicked, right? It got rejected or something. And it said something like for harassment. And it was like, what? So I had to go look at the video, and it was a fairly brief one, and there was private information being shared. And so they'll kick it if they see private information. And so what I had to do was go in and blur all of that private information so that, you know, you have a little tool that you can just go in and block so they can't see names or pixelated or something. I'm like, well, there was nothing in there. This was like one of the subgroup meetings. So couldn't quite figure out what was going on.
That was an Excel spreadsheet, right?
It was an Excel spreadsheet. Yes.
Yeah, I think I know. I'm glad they kicked it though. I mean, that's a nice filter.
Yeah, it is kind of good, but for harassing and, you know, or something else. And I'm thinking, I wouldn't exactly call it harass. I would call it private information sharing or something, you know, something we shouldn't have done. So, so I want to do just a quick little introduction here for Esme and Marilyn, because they may not be familiar with how all the camps are set up and who does what. We have a cross section of people here tonight. We've got Mary McEnany, who is a branch coordinator up in North Tahoe branch. We have Heidi, who is, you know, Heidi from virtual camp, but also she's a branch coordinator in the La Mesa El Cajon area. Martha Reese is the camp director up at Davis, and she's also a branch coordinator. Pat Bull was the camp director at UCSD before me. And she is helping out with, she just helps out with everything that I need help with. So thank you, Pat. Kay Clark is the treasurer at the Whittier camp. And Pat Grijalva is a camp director at UCSB. So she's got both of the camps at UCSB, UC Santa Barbara. I think I picked up everybody, right? Yep. So, and there's a few more people, but Esme, I think you may have heard, or I think I told you all at the kickoff that Stanford will not be having a camp this year. And we're going to have to look at what the alternatives are as we move into the future. So that's one of the things that we have to deal with and wrestle with when it comes to putting camp on. So what we're going to talk about today is camper tracking. We're going to talk about the Tech Trek alumni community, which is what we're going to be calling the overall group. The larger group is the community, Tech Trek alumni community. We're going to try and focus on having the Tech Trek alumni group kind of concept be considered more at a local level, and we'll talk to that a little bit. And then we're going to talk about process improvement and what we're doing and what we're trying to focus on as we go into this next camp season. Okay, so this is what I spent my time today playing with. Sometimes you just gotta play, you know? So we're talking about camper tracking. When we talk about camper tracking, we're talking about pre-camp, we're talking about camp, and then we're talking about post-camp. So we're talking about how do we get them into the system? How do we get them through the system? And then how do we finally get them into post-camp, and what happens after that? And so one of the things that, you know, as we look at the pre-camp process, and this is a decision that we made, we'll talk about it a little bit later in the process improvement stuff, but for this year, the decision was made to stick with red cap on the front end, mainly because we have the ability to segregate it by branch and camp to the extent that we might need to. So we can segregate data and limit it. We will be adding the camp directors to the user database, so you'll be able to go in and do things that you weren't able to do this year. And we're going to give you that access and give you all the information that you'll need to be able to go in and use whatever in RedCap. In Campsite, we're going to do as we did this year and import the data over into Campsite. We're going to try and you know, reduce the number of forms, but we're going to keep them in Campsite for the course of camp. And then after camp, at this point, we have not made a final decision on exactly how we're going to maintain or what the database is going to be for the alumna. Whether it's going to be in Campsite, we do not think so, or RedCap, or someplace else. And currently, we're doing it via spreadsheet. The other things that are going to be new in the post-camp phase is we're setting up this Tech Trek Alumni Community Advisory Board. We are going to implement an annual update. We're going to ask the alumni to respond to us annually and let us know what's going on with them. A simple form, just update your information. And in what we're going to try to do, as Beach Cities has attempted, is to incentivize them to do it. So give them either some kind of a tracking program at the end of which 5 years that they'd be eligible for something more relevant, et cetera. And we'll talk more about that when we talk about in the next couple of pages. And so what we expect to come out of this group is basically staff being fed back into the camps as in the future, and also people getting involved with this advisory board in the community and staying engaged in a longer term basis. What I would like to see in the future is a connection back maybe to the pre-camp phase to help some of the branches that may need a little bit more support, to help them manage the process a little bit better, since the younger people tend to be more likely digital natives than some people that are maybe have been around a little bit longer. Any questions about this or comments about it? I think it pretty much covered.
Mary, did you say you were going to use RedCap for registration again this year?
Not, well, we didn't do registration. We're going to use Campsite for your registration. So we're only going to use RedCap as we did last year for the pre-work.
So the nominations will go on RedCap?
Yes. Yep. Campsite right now does not have it, but there are several issues with it. probably the biggest issue we face into with campsite is that we didn't really evaluate it from a full cycle standpoint. We only evaluated it from a registration to the, through the registration, through the camp. So the decision was made to go with it, and it wasn't really vetted adequately for the front end part of the process. And one of the issues we ran into this year, like with the alternates, bringing alternates over from Red Cap, was that we couldn't bring them in to Red Cap or into campsite without enrolling them. So, and alternates aren't enrolled. Alternates aren't selected yet. Alternates are alternates. And so the issue really becomes, when does an alternate get transitioned over to a selected camper? So that was one of the things we struggled with a little bit on the front end. And we'll talk about this a little bit more when we get into process improvement. Anything else about this one? So if you recognize, I don't know if anybody recognizes what's going on here. Does anybody know what this is in particular? Esme, what is this? Marilyn, what are these? What are these representative of? Anybody? Bringing the math to the equation here. Come on.
It looks to me like one of those little puzzles you use when you're trying to verify
Oh, it does.
who you are or something.
Yeah. One
Looks
of
like mostly spirals except for one. Well, maybe they're all spirals. I don't know.
This is a good example of the Fibonacci sequence, the golden ratio. So if you look at, and as I was preparing this, that's when I went, oh, it kind of, if you go around like this and you come in, oh yeah, there it is. It starts at in the middle. It starts with the people who are going to really keep this going forward generationally. So, hey, I think there's some, what do you think, Mary? I see you smiling. Okay, so I talked a little bit about this at the front end. So camper tracking initiative, in discussions we've had with a lot of people about how do we get campers to stay in touch with us. I've gotten a lot of information from many different directions. I've gotten some from initiatives that were undertaken back in 2012 and 2010 and 2011. So I've got a number of surveys, different information that's been collected at different points in time. And I think everybody agrees that the goal is really to foster a community, a STEM community, a group of individuals who want to pursue STEM higher education, preferably. That's kind of what our goal is to encourage that. We do want long-term engagement, so it's not enough just to excite interest and give them self-confidence in the year that they attend camp, but also to sustain that over time and to have that really help them become part of this sustainable community, thereby feeding back into the branches, feeding back into the vitality of the branches and bringing new members to the table over time. I think that's ultimately the goal. So we've been talking through some different ideas, and one of the concepts is that, that I guess is pretty frustrating to some of the branches, is that campers are told that they are supposed to be ambassadors for 5 years when they do these applications. And yet, as soon as camp ends, a lot of campers disappear. You never hear or see from them again. They don't respond to emails. They're basically, you've lost touch with them. And how do you filter that out? Martha, that's got to be something that, and Mary and Heidi coming to being able to read, whether they're going to stay engaged. I think at the end, it's just a kind of a flip of the coin. Yeah, Heidi.
So I've got to say, in the branch level, being engaged with, the chair or the coordinator position, and before I was that, I've not heard our branch do that, saying, oh, we want you engaged for 5 years.
Ah,
It's in the paperwork, maybe, but I don't even recall seeing it in the paperwork on our end. We do say, we kind of mandate, hey, we want you to be there at this big meeting that, like what we had.
yeah.
And I think that's the only requirement we set, or the only ask we have.
So, and it is written into the paperwork, and
Okay.
they do have to sign it.
Okay.
I guess Esme or Marilyn, feedback from you, did when you were interviewed, was this emphasized, or did anybody make a big deal out of it, or?
When I was interviewed, I don't remember much like big deal about it. Like really, yeah, I don't think it was emphasized as much for me. Yeah.
Uh-huh.
It wasn't emphasized for me either, but I did attend like camp like 5 years ago. So like it
You're
could
still
have
engaged. You're still
Yeah.
engaged. That's good.
So, but things may have changed. But I remember at the time I wasn't like that wasn't like a point that was emphasized.
Interesting. Martha.
Yeah, we do reiterate that several times with our girls. But that said, they sometimes move out of the area or move someplace, and so then we don't have the control. We try to put them in touch with local branches wherever they move to. But yeah, so we have not. We don't get a gold star for that. We
Well,
haven't
but
done-
you do emphasize it during the selection
Oh,
process.
sure.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I guess that's, maybe it's baby steps. Maybe we just have to say, we have to, that's part of this, the effect is that you don't want it to just last for a week. You want this to be, this interest to stay. And if you just go for a week and then you don't stay engaged with the community, I don't know how you keep that moving forward or accelerating.
Yeah, Esme, how did you stay engaged?
I would say what was really important for me was like individual connections I had with people like who were running camp. Like for example, like Chris from my branch was always like super engaged with me, and like anytime I sent her an email, like she knew me very personally, I think. And like so having someone like, I know it's like hard, but like the smaller branches, like really like kind of like keeping track, even if it's hard, like having somebody who really seems to like understand and like looking out for you, really, I think that was really a big deal of why I felt like I had to, it was like my duty almost like to give back because I got so much from the camp.
Any other comments on that, Marilyn? Why did you come back? Why did you?
So basically, I think camp just like affected me it impacted me like a lot personally. Like I loved STEM before, but like once I did this camp, I genuinely like I learned like this is definitely I want to set my like life on. So, and once I commit to something, I like
10 minutes a day sharpens your brain.
and once I commit to something, I kind of like I go through it all the way and will put in all my effort towards that. So I like I just kind of like I think it was a mindset thing for me, but along with just like all the wonderful people I've met, like mentors and friends. So yeah.
Okay, Heidi.
Yeah, so I remember, Marilyn, you were in the last crew that our branch interviewed in person.
Yes.
And we had kind of gone through this process, and it may very well be in the paperwork for the in-person camp, which I haven't read through carefully since then. Okay.
Yeah.
This 5-year thing, but we definitely, I know that our branch did not emphasize that. We should, and we will from now on, now that I
That's great. Of course.
But
You know, I think to that end, I am a firm believer in dangling carrots.
I agree. I agree. But I think the carrot also, one of the carrots we have with Marilee is the virtual camp,
That's,
the coaching.
Yes.
but I will say this, Marilyn took a lot of self-initiative. And so I was having a conversation with somebody today about the branch selection process and how you might have to handle things differently between a virtual and residential camp. And
Yeah.
that would be, you know, I said that the challenge is really finding people who take a lot more initiative, maybe, or a little bit more initiative to get up in the morning and to attend the session, and to, there's maybe a little bit more, you get a little bit more help at the residential camps if you can't quite get yourself out of bed in the morning. Whereas at the virtual camp, nobody's going to be bugging you to get you up and get you out. And so I don't know if that's something that, I said it's a tough situation because you want self-efficacious people at both camps. And so you have to kind of look at, well, you know, maybe that's a question we need to start asking. Do you need a lot of help getting up in the morning? Or do you know, are you a prompt time management? Do you have, and not that everybody that goes to camp should, to a residential camp should get the ones that are poor time managers, but there seems to be less tolerance for lack of initiative in the virtual camp. Let's put it that way. If you're not motivated to participate, you just don't go. You just don't show up, and that's it. And whereas you're kind of stuck at a residential camp, whether you know, some kids can go home, but most of them, because of all the people that are around them, they'll stick it out. Whereas it's a lot harder to do that in the virtual camp. One of the things that we do want to do, though, is figure out a way, as I said, so maybe we send a shorter annual update. Tell us if you've got any contact changes, maybe a handful, 1, 2, 3 questions about STEM identity. And then at the 5-year period, send a more detailed survey to kind of get a little sense of their, what their intents are. Are they going to go to college? Are they going to go to work? Are they going to do nothing? Are they, you know, what are they going to do? And then maybe another one on a 10-year basis where you look back and say, all right, where are you at today? And I'm thinking that could, if we looked at some of these areas, we could tie that back into some research and maybe set up do some research for, and help the campers, not the campers, but help some of the alumni learn how to do research so that when they get into college, they've already got some of the basics down to do some of these simple research tasks that often need to be done. The other thing that we want to do, so that's just talking about responding to surveys, not even getting actively engaged in the Tech Trek community yet. But then maybe we could also reward campers who get engaged beyond that. So when we reach out to them, give them additional rewards, such as eligibility for scholarships, which is one of the things that I heard from Beach Cities that they do down there. And it would involve both them volunteering, providing service to AAUW, whether it be through Tech Trek or just helping out at the branch in a local level, event activity participation, and some other things such as what Marilyn and Esme are doing with us right now. Getting involved, getting engaged. Any comments on this? And I am, yeah, Mary.
Are you suggesting that there would be a part on the application besides the ICE will stay involved for 5 years, that that says we will contact you every year, or you need to contact us with changes in your contact information, or
I
is
think
that what you're?
yeah, basically that's where I'm headed, but I'm looking at doing it on a more systematic basis, such that, you know, knowing that we are going to definitely be contacting you and asking you to update. And we do kind of tell them that when we ask them to sign up, and we tell them, by the way, parents, we want to stay in touch with you, and we may reach out to you over the next 5 years. So I'll have to look at the actual language that we use. But what I'm suggesting is that there would be an annual link sent to them, pushed to them. So it even takes away you have to take the initiative. We'll push it to them, and they then have the choice of completing it or not. And we'll push it to the last known email address. If it bounces, then we know that that's kind of dead. Yeah, Heidi, you're on mute.
Who sends the survey out? Is it the state?
Yeah, we'll send it out at the state level.
And you said you're not doing it through RedCap and not doing it through
No, I didn't say we're not. I said TBD. That's what I said.
Okay, TBD. Okay, all right, TBD.
It could be through a Google form. We don't know. I mean, it could be that simple, but it's probably not going to be that simple. And I don't think we want to get to the point I don't think we need to get to the point where we won't want to just enable them to go in and update their own information in the system directly. That I don't think that's the quality right now. It may be over time that we need to evolve into a system where they can go and update their own data online. But right now, what it would be is fill out this form, tell us your name, your email, you know, the details, and then we would go and update the records as needed from that. So trying again to minimize the number of times we have to handle data, but also trying to capture more information about what's happening with campers after camp, and trying to make some sense out of it. And really, at the end of the day, yes, Tech Trek, there's lots of information that tells us it's has a very positive impact. It would be nice to be able to see what that positive impact looks like down the road, and to know that we do see a higher number of people going than the average, a higher number of girls going into STEM higher ed, and then the average number of girls. So that would be kind of cool. Any other questions or comments about this?